The UK royal family is in a terrible situation in relation to the Andrew Epstein affair, according to Donald Trump, who said he feels badly for them. Following King Charles III's decision to remove Prince Andrew's titles due to his relationship with Jeffrey Epstein, US President Donald Trump sent condolences to the British royal family. Following King Charles III's decision to deprive Prince Andrew of his title, US President Donald Trump stated on Sunday that he felt badly for the British royal family of his royal title as a result of his contentious relationship with the late sex criminal Jeffrey Epstein. "I feel terrible." When an AFP journalist questioned Trump about the most recent saga on Air Force One, he replied, "I mean, it's a terrible thing that's happened to the family. That has been a sad and terrible circumstance. I feel bad for the family, though." At 79 years old, Trump has recently been battling political difficulties related to his purported ties to Jeffrey Epstein, the New York financier who passed away in jail in 2019. The former prince, who is now known as Andrew Mountbatten Windsor, was stripped of his honorary title by the British government, and his statement was made in response to this action. His last remaining military post was that of Vice Admiral. The US president has expressed his affection for the British royal family on several occasions, particularly during King Charles's state visit in September. During the visit, Trump enjoyed a complete state meal at Windsor Castle, as well as military processions and a flyover. However, the purported Epstein files have been the subject of a controversy that has surrounded Trump's second presidency, who was a close friend of Epstein for many years. The Trump administration stated in July that it had not discovered any fresh evidence to support either releasing more documents or launching a new inquiry into the subject. While awaiting trial for purportedly sex trafficking underage girls who were recruited to give him sexual massages, Epstein passed away. Conspiracy theories. Although the authorities concluded that Epstein committed suicide, his demise has given rise to several conspiracy theories, especially among Trump's supporters, claiming that he was murdered in order to prevent him from revealing influential people. Trump, a Republican, has maintained that the Epstein issue is a hoax created by his Democratic rivals and has consistently refuted any ties to the scandal. Former Prince Andrew's relationship with Epstein continues to cause widespread public indignation in the United Kingdom. Charles kicked his younger brother out of his longtime home on the Windsor estate and stripped him of all his remaining royal titles and honors on Thursday. Guided again by the king, "We are working now to remove that last remaining title of Vice Admiral that he has," Defense Minister John Healey told the BBC on Sunday. In 2022, after being sued by Virginia, Andrew's mother, the late Queen Elizabeth II, removed his other honorary military titles. Epstein's primary accuser, Giuffre. In 1982, during the Falklands War, the king's younger brother was formally hailed for his service as a Royal Navy helicopter pilot. Giuffre, who claimed in her posthumous memoir that Andrew sexually abused her, has always denied it. He retired in 2001 after 22 years of service. Former Prince Andrew is poised to testify that she was trafficked to him for sex 3 times, twice while she was only 17. Lose military rank at the hands of the British government. As part of King Charles's choice to keep his brother out of the public eye, Andrew Mountbatten Windsor will lose his last remaining military role, the Defense Minister of the United Kingdom stated. According to a local Time Sunday interview with the BBC, John Healey said that efforts were being made to remove the former British prince from his position as Vice Admiral, and Charles had indicated that's what he wishes for the nation's navy. Last week, in an attempt to prevent more, the king evicted his younger brother from his residence and removed his title as prince. Harm to the royal family's image because of Mr. Mountbatten Windsor's connections to the late sex offender Jeffrey Epstein. "We've seen Andrew resign the honorary roles that he's Mr. Healey said that he had it throughout the military. With the king's direction once more, we are currently attempting to take away his last remaining title of Vice Admiral. This is the right thing to do, as the king has indicated, and we are currently working on it." He told the BBC that the king would also advise the government on whether Mr. Mountbatten Windsor should give up his military medals. In the 1982 Falklands War, the former prince was honored for his service as a Royal Navy helicopter pilot. He retired in 2001 after 22 years of employment. Following Virginia Giuffre's lawsuit against Mr. Mountbatten Windsor in 2022, his mother, the late Queen Elizabeth II, revoked his honorary military titles. Even though he remained a vice admiral, Epstein's primary accuser. Ms. Giuffre stated in her autobiography, which was published posthumously last month, that she was trafficked. Mr. Mountbatten Windsor has always maintained that he did not sexually assault her. She slept with him 3 times, twice when she was only 17. Prince Andrew will now be known as Andrew Mountbatten Windsor, Buckingham Palace stated in a strongly worded statement on Thursday, adding these censures are deemed necessary notwithstanding his denial. The King and Queen added that their utmost sympathies had been, and would remain with, the victims and survivors of any and all forms of abuse. According to the Sunday Times, that was extraordinary. That's the closest you'll get to the King and Queen. Camilla, a friend of the royal family, said to the newspaper. His brother being judged by his court. Mr. Mountbatten Windsor has refused to sign off on any statements that mentioned the victims since his terrible BBC News night, according to the British media. In 2019, he gave an interview in which he defended his relationship with Epstein and seemed to have no remorse for the victims. One of the family's friends told the Sunday Times, the family has long felt that the victims' voices needed to be heard. The former prince emailed Epstein in 2010, following his release from prison, according to an email that was published among court files in the United States on Thursday. That he was intending to go to New York because it would be good to catch up in person for prostituting minors. As additional information about Andrew surfaces, Trump weighs in on the tragic situation. The royal family drama was described by Donald Trump as too bad. Amid the ongoing repercussions over Andrew Mountbatten Windsor's relationship with Jeffrey Epstein, the pedophile financier, U.S. President Donald Trump stated that he feels badly for the royal family. The news comes amidst rumors that Andrew declined to approve royal statements supporting the victims of Jeffrey Epstein's sexual assault. Since his terrible 2019, the ex-prince will veto any mention of abuse victims in all statements, according to a person close to the King and Queen. According to the Times, the interview on Newsnight prevented the palace from recognizing them. But in his most recent statement, the King removed Andrew from he made his support for survivors in the line clear by using royal titles. Their Majesties wish to make clear that their thoughts and utmost sympathies have been, and will continue to be, with the victims and survivors of all types of abuse. The U.S. President responded to the King's choice to strip Andrew of his princely title by saying, "It's a terrible thing that's happened to the royal family." Following pressure over his connection with Epstein, the King made the dramatic move on Thursday to formally strip Andrew of his HRH style and his titles of Prince and Duke of York. Following his departure from Royal Lodge, Andrew Mountbatten Windsor might not be able to pursue the majority of his substantial compensation claim. After being stripped of his royal titles earlier this week, the King's brother is scheduled to be evicted from the Windsor estate. After giving up his lease, he is said to be set to get 6 figures. However, the Telegraph sources claim that Andrew's now former residence is in desperate need of upkeep and repairs, and that he may end up being evicted. If expenses are subtracted from his plan, he will be out of pocket. It's said that Queen Camilla voiced her concerns about Andrew's connections to King Charles's choice to remove Andrew of his titles. Her work with sex abuse victims may be affected by Jeffrey Epstein, a financier and pedophile. According to the Telegraph, Camilla was reportedly shocked by Andrew's connection to Epstein and thought the ongoing scandal was interfering with her capacity to perform her public responsibilities. "Each of us has a role to play in the elimination of violence against women," Camilla said in a statement on the UN Day for the Elimination of Violence Against Women in 2020. "To act in a role, to make every effort to increase public understanding, to reach into others, and to support and be inspired by those incredibly brave survivors." On Sandringham Estate, where will Andrew reside? On the 8,000-hectare Sandringham Estate, Andrew Mountbatten Windsor will relocate from the 30-room Royal Lodge to a home. King Charles will personally finance his transfer, which will occur as soon as practicable. York Cottage. One potential candidate for Andrew's new home is York Cottage, which has previously served as a holiday rental or as lodging for estate workers. Before leaving royal life, the Duke and Duchess of Sussex were chosen to live on the property. Park House. Park House, where the late Princess Diana was born, is where Andrew may be residing as a result of his relocation to Sandringham. The late Queen rented Park House to the Leonard Cheshire Charity in 1987, which operated it as a hotel for those with disabilities. Gardens House. The house where the estate's head gardener once lived, Gardens House, was another place he could relocate. According to the Sandringham website, it is now utilized as a vacation rental and includes 4 bedrooms and 3 bathrooms. Andrew organized a private tour of Buckingham Palace for executives from the cryptocurrency mining company Pegasus Group Holdings, which had consented to pay his former wife up to £1.4 million, according to the BBC. When the crypto mining business failed, investors lost millions of dollars. Sarah Ferguson was hired by the corporation as a brand ambassador for it. According to reports, her work was worth more than £200,000, and a leaked contract indicates that she was eligible for an extra bonus of £1.2 million. After the former prince was stripped of his titles, there has been growing pressure for Andrew Mountbatten Windsor to respond to inquiries about his friendship with Jeffrey Epstein in the United States. Now that Andrew has been asked by American lawmakers to provide details about Epstein's offenses to a House Oversight Committee, the pressure has increased. Key people suggested that he might even be able to address a congressional committee via video connection. Reports from Rebecca Whitaker and Nicole Wooten-Kane. What will become of Beatrice and Eugenie and their gracious, favored life? Both Beatrice and Eugenie have wealthy husbands with promising careers. Therefore, why do they specialize in discussing AI in Saudi Arabia and art, respectively? They both live on Crown Estate homes that are granted with grace and favor? According to Tessa Dunlop, it may not be long before more queries are raised regarding the sisters who are allowed to keep their HRH titles while not being members of the royal family. Beatrice enjoys discussing AI in Saudi Arabia, and Eugenie specializes in art. Both women are married to wealthy men with bright futures, so why are they both living in Crown Estate houses that are grace and favor? Tessa Dunlop writes that it could soon happen that further concerns are raised about the sisters who continue to hold their HRH titles despite not being members of the working monarchy. In the midst of the controversy surrounding Andrew's relationship with child molester Jeffrey Epstein, Donald Trump expressed his sympathies for the royal family. "It's a terrible thing that's happened to the royal family," Trump told reporters on Sunday, having also been under pressure regarding his own relationship with Epstein. The president refuted knowing Andrew in 2019, despite having met him on a number of occasions, including Trump's state, when questioned about claims of sexual assault against him. A trip to the United Kingdom that year. "I don't know Prince Andrew, but it's a tough story, it's a very tough story," Mr. Trump said. In February 2000, a photo shows Trump, his wife Melania, and Andrew posing together at the Mar-a-Lago residence in Florida. Members of a U.S. congressional committee have increased their demand that Andrew respond to queries about his relationship with Epstein, as Trump made these remarks on Sunday. Andrew to lose his honorary title as Vice Admiral. The Defense Secretary announced that Andrew Mountbatten Windsor will lose his honorary Vice Admiral rank. On his 55th birthday in 2015, Andrew was promoted to Vice Admiral, and he maintained the title after retiring from his other military roles in 2022. John Healey told the BBC's Sunday with Laura Quensberg program, "In general, the government's been guided by the decisions and judgments the king has made. The same holds true for defense. And guided once more by the king, we've seen Andrew give up the honorary positions he's held throughout the military. We are now attempting to strip him of his last remaining title of Vice Admiral." When asked if Andrew may potentially lose his military medals as well, Mr. Healey responded that they were medals for his service and said, "I don't have an answer. We would be guided by the king's choices, though, just as we would with his Vice Admiral rank and title." The royals are seldom mentioned by politicians. Following the Andrew tragedy, things might alter. You may believe this is about Andrew, a senior Whitehall official wonders aloud. However, consider this to be a turning point in the connection between the palace and Parliament and note it in your diary. Will this royal chaos herald a new era? And might politicians start being more forthcoming in highlighting the monarchy's faults and more vocal in expressing their opinions, even if they typically decline to comment? When the then Prime Minister Boris Johnson was questioned by the media about the terrible interview with the man who was, his answer was, "Good effort," given his title Prince Andrew in 2019, which he had until 48 hours ago. The reaction could be summed up as that for the past several years, ministers would rather do anything than comment on the tale. It was more than being allergic, you were going into a no-win situation, a former number 10 official remembers. You either incur the wrath you look like you're defending the indefensible or like you're from the palace. The strategy of avoiding something if at all possible was not only linked to the protracted Andrew drama. For many years, the prevailing wisdom has been that senior politicians who want to be near government maintain a diplomatic silence about the royals, in addition to platitudinous adoration or encouraging murmuring silence. Additionally, the convention operated in both directions, with the royal family never discussing politics in public. The order of the day was polite nods in both ways. "Don't upset the Queen, don't upset the King" has been intentional. It's difficult to conceive of other sectors in our political structure where such an unwritten law exists. According to the Prime Minister's former source at number 10, he is not often instructed to avoid taking certain actions, but he is frequently advised to avoid doing so when it comes to the royals, aides, and the counsel given by officials is pre-programmed. Don't get involved. Naturally, there have always been noteworthy exceptions. Jeremy Corbyn, the previous head of the Labour Party, is a Republican who questioned if the royal family ought to be reduced in size. The palace was enraged by Boris Johnson's decision to shut down Parliament for several weeks, as it was thought that he was attempting to prevent MPs from blocking his bid for power. The UK's exit from the EU. That blatantly political act made the palace very uneasy. When David Cameron said that the late Queen purred down the phone line when he informed her of the outcome of the Scottish referendum, he received a reprimand. Zach Polanski, the head of the Greens, informs me that they are a Republican party, and that there are several proud Republicans scattered across Labour, the Lib Dem and SNP ranks, even if these are not the formal stances of the parties. The reality is that the monarchy is a component of political life for those in or near to power. Why? The crown is, as you may recall, represented on the headed paper of official documents, on the front of our legislation, and on the side of ministers' red boxes. His or Her Majesty's administration is the government. The crown appoints the ministers. Furthermore, it's not merely theoretical. The monarch is seen frequently by senior politicians who participate in the Privy Council. The King and the Prime Minister are well known for having a weekly audience, which is a one-on-one discussion. Thus, the government and the palace are fundamentally linked by process and people. These actual connections, according to insiders, are another reason to avoid taking potshots. However, there has undoubtedly been a more robust appetite in Parliament in recent weeks. The public has been talking about Andrew's conduct at an unprecedented rate as a result of one revelation after another. For him to lose his titles, we have seen MPs attempting to compel a change in the law. The Lib Dems considered utilizing their allotted time in the House of Commons to discuss increasing the pressure. Additionally, the potent Public Accounts Committee has been pressing for answers regarding Andrew's meager rent payment for his Windsor residence. The PAC is still waiting for answers to its questions, even though his older brother is requesting the removal trucks. They may still initiate a more comprehensive inquiry into the financial trail, depending on the answers they receive. The committee's lawmakers may even bring Andrew before them to testify, though this still seems improbable. UK Trade Minister Chris Bryant stated on Friday morning that he should go if requested, while American politicians have made similar threats. Act in that manner, as any decent person would. It's hard to believe that anyone in the British government would have said such things even a few weeks ago. The allegations' character, and perhaps the palace's reluctance to act more decisively over a prolonged period, have altered the course of events. Reflecting the general public's sentiment, as politicians usually do. One opponent stated, "The fact is that we are huge supporters of the royal family and the king. However, many of the individuals we spoke with we thought that knocking on doors was so unpleasant that it needed to be addressed." Robert Jenrick and Sir Ed Davies' mention of royal conduct sent shockwaves and raised concerns that had gone far beyond the monarchy's usual critics. Additionally, sources indicate that messages were being sent from the government as well, albeit in a low-key manner. One said, "People politely saying to the palace this is not going away and this is difficult, the government saying eek, this isn't going away would have been a part of it." Additionally, this week has seen the government benefit greatly from the royal uproar, which has dominated headlines at a time when Chancellor Rachel Reeves' conduct has come under scrutiny. "You breathe a sigh of relief as you guys, the media, go crackers over something else," a former number 10 official told me during a royal scandal. Reeves acknowledged that she had violated the regulations. At first, she didn't get her tale correct. The Chancellor's humiliation might have grown into a larger scandal if the king had made his choice either a few days sooner or a few days later. It would be incorrect to claim that Andrew was sent packing by politicians. The audience heckled the monarch to an exceptional degree. Andrew's actions have caused concern for many years. Numerous charges. A few weeks ago, Virginia Giuffre's family appeared on my program and said that Lord Mandelson should never have served as the UK ambassador to the US. According to a source, however, the function of lawmakers and Parliament did matter. According to another Whitehall insider, the problem began in Parliament, and the palace would have been aware that it was becoming a bigger issue there. Through the sovereign grant, Parliament, which has the authority to oversee the palace's expenditures, is technically the supreme authority. Now, then, what? Perhaps some members of Parliament enjoy putting pressure on the royals. It's conceivable that Andrew's finances could be the subject of a thorough probe. There are already calls for a debate regarding Andrew's removal from the line of succession. That would necessitate a revision in the law. A weak government should not engage in such extremely contentious commercial endeavors. However, one source told me, over the years, there have been a fair number of politicians in both chambers who have wanted to get into this. They are now free to push it all the way open and enter since Andrew has opened the door ajar. Perhaps royal disagreements will become a more common feature of our political menu. The blanket blah blah blah, we can't comment attitude, as another former Downing Street official put it, may have run its course. Britain's monarchy is now experiencing another setback as a result of Andrew's majestic departure. The British monarchy has prestige but no authority and is at the whim of public opinion. The disgrace of Andrew Mountbatten Windsor, who was stripped of his princely title and luxurious house by his brother king, has made this obvious. The expulsion of Charles on Thursday, which has made the disgraced royal more and more subject to political and legal investigation over his finances and his relationship with the sex criminal Jeffrey Epstein, in an effort to shield the monarchy from future scandals involving Andrew, Charles arguably made the most significant choice of his reign. Andrew's involvement with Epstein, who committed suicide in jail in August 2019 while awaiting trial on sex trafficking counts, was at the center of several scandals. Over 10 years after his first conviction, the House of Windsor, the current iteration of the British monarchy, has faced crises in the past, but this is not the first time. Century and where the institution's future has been in danger. The most recent example of what has happened to Andrew is the title's deprivation of 1917, according to George Gross, a royal expert at King's College London. Act that saw various members of loosely affiliated royals and dukes and members of the peerage losing titles if they had sided with Germany in the First World War. Because of Queen Victoria's marriage to Prince Albert of Saxe-Coburg and Gotha, with whom she had 9 kids, the royal families of Europe are interwoven, and Britain's is largely German. Some members of the larger British royal family were on opposite sides when Britain and Germany went to war in 1914. In 1917, King George V of Britain passed legislation to remove the titles of Saxe-Coburg and Gotha and changed the family name to Windsor. Princes and lords who have, during the present war, borne arms against His Majesty or his allies, or who have adhered to His Majesty's enemies. Prince Ernest Augustus, the Duke of Cumberland and Teviotdale, who was both a member of the British monarchy and a Prince of Hanover, was one of the targets. The 1917 Act, which was passed in 1919, when the war was over, stripped him of his title for being an enemy of Britain. This was the first and only time such a title has been removed in this way, the House of Commons Library states. The conflict between Edward, Prince of Wales, and U.S. socialite Wallis Simpson was a headache that eventually became a constitutional catastrophe. Edward, the heir to the throne, was destined to be the ceremonial head of the Church of England, which had no connection to Simpson's 2 divorces. Enabled divorced individuals to remarry in a church. When his father, King George V, passed away in early 1936, the prince assumed the title of King Edward VIII. Despite the British government's opposition, he insisted that he still wished to wed Simpson. He gave up the throne in December 1936, compelled to select between duty and desire, and proclaimed in a radio address that I have found it. Without the love and support of the woman I love, it is impossible for me to carry out my responsibilities as king in the manner that I would want to. Although it wasn't a surprise to everyone outside of Britain, the news did catch many people off guard there. The connection was not covered by the British press, and American magazines had objectionable content removed before it went on sale. The monarchy was given a fresh direction by the abdication. The monarchy was seized by Edward's younger brother, who became King George VI. After his 70-year rule, his daughter, Queen Elizabeth II, took over, and then his son, King Charles III, took over. Everyone agreed that a monarch's main quality should be a sense of duty, which, in the public mind, Edward lacked. Now the Duke and Duchess of Windsor, Edward and Wallis, who were thought by some to have Nazi sympathies, were dispatched to the Bahamas, where he worked as governor. They lived a life of nomadic luxury, mostly avoiding Britain after the war. In 1997, Princess Diana, Charles's former wife, passed away in a vehicle accident in Paris at the age of 36, which was a shock. The world abandoned her family, including her sons William and Harry, who were 15 and 12 at the time, in grief. The royal family was taken aback by the intensity of public sentiment. Following a princess who had been excluded by the royal family, floral tributes were piled up in front of the gates of Buckingham Palace in remembrance. She and Charles were divorced in 1992. The Queen spent her summer vacation in Scotland with her husband Prince Philip, Charles, William, and Harry in Balmoral. The family maintained their sorrow a secret and maintained their routine by bringing the ashen-faced children to church on Sunday morning, and the Queen did the same. Refrained from releasing a statement for a few days. With his own tribute, in which he referred to Diana as the People's Princess, Prime Minister Tony Blair flawlessly captured the popular sentiment and urged her to express her sadness in public. The eve of Diana's funeral, the Queen gave a live television address to the nation in response to newspaper headlines that urged "Speak to us, ma'am, and show us you care." In recognition of the nation's grief, the Queen stated, "I say to you now, as your Queen and as a grandma, from my heart, praising Diana and pledging to always cherish her memory." Andrew had been attempting to get back into the family's good graces up until the Epstein incident reappeared last year. The issues surrounding Prince Harry, who at the time was the subject of the majority of the controversy outside of the family's well-known medical issues, may have indirectly helped him. When Harry and Meghan, his wife, resigned from their roles, he grew apart from his father and elder brother, Prince William, who is the heir to the kingdom. Moved to California in 2020 and took on employment positions. In a tell-all interview with Oprah Winfrey, the pair famously expressed their complaints with the royal family. And a revealing Netflix series. After that, in his memoir, Spare, Harry, also known as the Duke of Sussex, added fuel to the fire by sharing private chats. By seeking the courts to resolve his legal disputes, Harry also violated royal protocol. In his successful lawsuit against the Daily Mirror for phone hacking, he became the first senior royal to testify in court in over a century. However, his unsuccessful attempt to regain his police security detail, which had been taken away from him when he quit royal employment, was perceived as an assault on his father's administration. The courts ultimately dismissed the lawsuit, giving the father and son the opportunity to reconcile. In September, the two sipped tea at Charles's London home, Clarence House. It was their first encounter in more than a year. It only lasted about an hour.